Podcast where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the deferred sales trust is an amazing way for you to unlock highly appreciated assets, defer the capital gains tax, and create and preserve more wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. I'm founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, business minds in the world, where they share their ideas and deal stories. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He is out of the great state of Florida. In fact, where we're shooting live today in St. Augustine, Florida. In fact, he is the Senior Director of Investor Success. He's also become a friend of mine, where we work very closely at DLP Capital. He helps head up really all things investor relations and helping and working with top investors across the company. We're going to learn a little bit more today about how to grow wealth with DLP Capital. Also learn a little bit more about their values. They're become dear friends of mine, our number one strategic alliance. Please welcome to the show with me, Larry Hickernell. Larry, how you doing?
Awesome, Brett. Thank you so much for that introduction. Love it.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah. Story, grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, came from a family that was not necessarily financially savvy, but we got by, right? And so over time, decided to get into the financial world. Did a lot of time with wealth planning, private banking, wealth management, credit within larger bank institutions usually. Came on to DLP a little over 7 years ago now as of today, and have worked with Don on everything, to your point, capital raising, investor servicing, trying to make dreams come true, all those sorts of things, really developing deep relationships with our investors, helping them define, protect, transition their legacy. And so, it's been an awesome pleasure to be able to work with you for quite some time now. And, all the good stuff that we're doing together really is to make a bigger impact. So we know that we can't do all this ourselves. So partnering with phenomenal folks like yourself and, just amazing people. We have an amazing circle that we're able to, again, make that impact, positively impact 10 million lives through real estate.
Absolutely. Before we dive into that and how DLP is making an impact and how we've worked together with Capital Gains Tax Solutions, I want to take one other step back. Larry, I believe we've all been given certain gifts, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. Mm-hmm. So what would you say Larry's, superpower or strength or number one gift that you were given? Maybe you identified it when you were in high school or in your younger years. What would you say that is? And then number two, how do you use that gift to make it be a blessing and help to others?
Yeah, so I would say that it's dad jokes, but my kids are probably going to tell you otherwise. I think one of the things that I've always really focused on, and I think I've been able to make an impact through, is relationship and just getting to know people and being really just genuine with people. There's a lot of business out there that, it's undercutting or backstabbing or, just not doing things for the right reasons. And obviously our values, which we'll touch on, are important to help kind of right the way, right, and lead us in the right direction. But it really comes down to really honestly wanting to get to know people, putting the boundaries away, really getting to know folks at a deep level. And then when it comes to doing business together, it just makes it really easy because you're not having to put on a facade or you're not having to think about who you're going to be today or a character that you're playing. Just being yourself, being genuine, honest, positivity, like all those things. If you just bring that day in and day out, there's really nothing you can't do. So that's kind of what I like to focus on.
Absolutely, and I could attest to that too. It's great to be able to work with you, right, and serve joint clients at this point, joint investors, right. So very cool. So let's keep that in mind. Let's dive into the topic, which is DLP Capital and how it is unlocking some freedom and unlocking dreams. I love the way you put that. So what would you say the number one secret is for DLP being able to unlock that freedom for investors?
Yeah, there's a few things for sure. If you look at just the monetary aspect of it or just the results aspect of DLP, we are always focused. Rules number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, never lose money ever for an investor. And Don will tell you, Don Wenner, our founder and CEO, you'll hear from everyone on this team that there would never be a time that we would have ever taken in investor capital if we ever thought that there was a possibility of losing money. Now, look, all investments have a certain level of risk. We understand all that, right? But if you make every decision in your business with that in mind first, there's not a lot else that is going to be able to go wrong, right? So you have that focus, and you say, okay, you're going to make sound decisions. You're not going to go chasing shiny objects. You're going to do what you know you can do best, and then you just do a lot of it. So that's number one, is we've never lost a penny of principal for an investor ever. We are going to work really hard to be able to say that 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now.
So rule number one, never lose a dollar. And as part of that, being great stewards, which leads us into our first.
Yes.
We have these blocks here. We're going to be
Yes.
sharing. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the blocks. If you're listening to it on the podcast, go to the YouTube channel. This probably is going to be on the DLP Capital's YouTube channel, but also on the Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel.
Yes.
We have these blocks here, and it talks about being great stewards. In fact, I'm not sure if the steward is on these two blocks, but I know that's one of the major values. So talk about the value of stewardship and how DLP Capital is using that to guide in that direction for making sure they're not losing capital for investments.
Yes. We want to be fierce stewards of our investor capital by doing good and doing well with the things that we're given. And so we don't take it lightly that people are investing their hard-earned dollars with us, their lifelong savings, everything that they're working to build over many, many years. That's a huge responsibility. And so we take that very seriously. And so that era of stewardship is, okay, well, we're not doing all this for ourselves, right? We're doing it for others, and we're doing it to make that bigger impact. I know I say that a lot, but that's really what it's all about. And so when we're looking at stewardship and we're saying, doing good things and being productive with what we're given and protecting that, again, that's the conduit that helps us do many, many other things. But it does always come down to that stewardship, number one.
Absolutely. It's like taking your eyes and putting lens on of stewardship, right? So how are we going to make sure we're doing right by the client, right by the investor, right by your team members, right? Everything that you're doing. Also making an impact with the housing itself.
Right.
So talk about, I think, maybe the number two secret for DLP to unlock not only investors' dreams, right? Let's say of passive, financial freedom, but also the dreams for the tenants that are in these multifamily properties and some of the vision behind, and ending, homelessness as much as we can.
Yes. And I think there's probably going to be a counter on the screen here saying how many times I say impact, but we're impact funds. We're impact investors by mandate. Our funds are mandating us, and we made that decision very actively to say we're going to be impact investors. And what does that mean? For instance, there's one thing where in our homes, we call them our homes, they're not units or they're not, apartments. I mean, they are in general, right? But these folks this is their home, and it's workforce housing. So it's folks that either want to or have to pay less than 50, 60% of what their monthly income is, because that's what a lot of other people are charging. In our homes, in our communities, we're charging no more than 30% of an area's median income. And so what does that do? If you're not spending half or more of your monthly income, and you have room to be able to go and do things with your kids, or you be able to, actually have a savings and build that nest egg, take yourself from this level of whatever your socioeconomic scenario might be and level up. And so that's, at the very basic level, being able to give folks the ability to live fully, which is another one of our core values. But how are you supposed to live fully if you're spending the majority of your hard-earned income on living expenses? It just doesn't make any sense. And to your point, the shortage of affordable housing in this country, it's not getting any better. We still have a shortage of over 3 million homes for affordable housing. And it's not going to get better unless we chip away at it. So, and again, we can't do that alone. So we partner with other great operators in the lending side as well as on partnerships. Our 2,400 plus investor families that we serve, they're out there, they're doing similar things. But we set the example in terms of really being focused on helping folks take that next step in their life and be able to live fully, be able to thrive, and be able to really then think about legacy. Because if you're just trying to survive day in, day out, there's no doubt that there's no time to think about legacy because you're just trying to keep the lights on.
Absolutely. And I think this is so key for a lot of my clients that I work with. They want to know, hey, who do you want to invest with and why? Like why DLP Capital? And I think the key is the impact. In fact, if you're listening to this and you're curious, the not only 3 million units short with the housing, it's the housing crisis is one of the biggest in the country, along with the debt crisis and other things that are going on. But what we're finding here is the fact that a lot of capital needs to be unlocked in order to invest into these communities.
Yeah.
And so there's things like the opportunity zones that were introduced, right? There's things like the 1031 exchanges, right, that have been around for a while. But what we also found, there's other assets that are not eligible for 1031 exchanges and or necessarily in an opportunity zone.
Yeah.
And so with the deferred sales trust, what we love about the ability is to unlock the capital, but to go straight into places like the DLP Buildings Communities Fund, right, which is projected to build about 5,000 units in the next 3 years, which is phenomenal. Given where a lot of challenging to build communities in different places, you guys be able to do it in a way that's making sense financially, and it's making a real dent, because without new housing, we're not going to move the needle very often. We need more housing, and that's so key. And give you another stat too. There's an estimated $84 trillion that's set to pass from the baby boomers to the millennials in the next 20 years. And this is known as the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet.
Yeah.
So we believe at Capital Gains Tax Solutions that 84 trillion is going to can fund and will be the solution for building the housing if we can unlock the capital.
Yes.
If we can unlock the capital in a tax efficient way that benefits the community, we have plenty of money to build. So it's not a money problem. It's the movement and the placement, and they entrust it with a group who's going to do right and do well and still make a profit. That's right. So do you want to just touch on anything about that?
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on one of the crises that we're also trying to solve for, which is the wealth and legacy crisis. So there's this shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves story out there where upwards of 80% of all of the families out there lose their generational wealth by generation 3. So generation 1 makes all the money and creates that legacy, and then typically the vast majority of all families lose it and have to start from scratch by generation 3. So in terms of talking about legacy with our investors, and it's so crazy sometimes, Brett, that you sit down with a family and they're, by all accounts, sophisticated investors. They are really, really good at whatever it is they've done to amass that wealth. They've never had a conversation about what they do or what they think about or how they're thinking about legacy with their own kids. And so what happens is you end up having these conversations with these folks, and this is what we do at our events, and this is what we do one-on-one every day, is, again, taking away those boundaries to say, guys, you need to talk about this stuff, because otherwise you're going to have to be reactive once that generation 1 passes away. Generation 2 has absolutely no idea what's going on, makes bad decisions, not because they're bad people or because they're not smart or whatever. It's since they haven't built the framework to be able to do it. So what we're trying to do is, and our funds are the conduit to this, because you need to have that capital to be able to do it, to your point. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to, again, define that legacy, understand what it is they're trying to do with this, the impact they're trying to make, what that means for their family. If they don't have kids, what are the philanthropic goals they have? Those are the things that we're talking about. And we talk about, success to significance and more than money. Like, this is what we're doing it for. And so to your point, this wealth transfer, yes, it's going to be able to help us chip away at the affordable housing crisis, right? But it's also that bigger picture of really setting families up for generations to be able to preserve that legacy and then keep it going for generations to come.
I absolutely love how your values at DLP Capital and the values that you live and Don lives and the leadership team and all the team members at DLP Capital, how they all intertwine together, right? Yeah. They flow to the communities, they flow to the families that are investing the money, they flow to making the impact. And I think that's so key to, I think, success in anything in life, but especially with ultra high net worth individuals who are entrusting someone with their wealth. They want to know that it's not only making a profit, but it's also doing good for the community and for their family, so that it's practicing what they've built up for. So I think that's so important. I think as well when I think about what's happening in the marketplace right now too, as it pertains to let's say cryptocurrency that crashed in over the past a couple of years, and maybe it's making a comeback right now, or even the stock market can be very uncertain, right? What I love about DLP being that it is a private REIT, right, for most of the funds, that private aspect to me opens up more transparency and accountability, right? To feel like it's like a family that you're investing with rather than a big public company. And so can you just speak to the aspect of that, kind of the macro view of DLP Capital and how that's helped to grow your guys' community?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it in an investment, the only thing you have is trust. Whether you're investing in a public company who are required to do all the kinds of reporting that they do, we're a privately held company, we're not required, but we do it anyway because we hold ourselves to that higher standard. And to your point, what that does is it helps create relationships where you understand where everybody is. So that transparency, overly communicative in many cases, talking through things and understanding, if you're an investor with us in our funds, you know what's happening at any given time, any given day, in many different media. So not just on our reporting. All of our funds are audited. We publish fund reports every single month. We do webinars pretty much every single week. But when we do our events, for instance, right, we bring together existing investors that have been with us, in some cases since the beginning. We have folks that are considering investing with us, and we have our operators, the folks that we partner with and lend to, all in the same room. And people are like, well, why would you do that? Like, aren't you afraid that, the operators are going to try to, solicit your people? It's like, no, we cannot do this by ourselves. And so when you look at business as not being a zero-sum game, we don't have to make somebody else lose in order for us to win. It just makes things so much easier. And so that communication and transparency is really what we're trying to put together. And that's just the baseline. So, when you're coming in and you're saying, yeah, it really is like a family, it's cliche to say, but it's like you really are. And you literally become a family. We have investors that met through DLP, didn't know each other otherwise, that are now like going to each other's weddings and like taking trips with each other. And, they look forward to getting together with us because there's that level of comfort. And then you say, okay, well, at the same time, we have institutional quality reporting, institutional quality due diligence material. So as deeply as somebody wants to go in terms of learning about how we do what we do in order to A, protect the assets that they're investing with us, and then B, always exceed the targeted returns, that's all there. But that's the baseline of baselines, whereas we can take it to a whole nother level by just, again, stripping away those boundaries and just really being that transparent, open book.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And by the way, you guys can take action right now. DLPcapital.com. You can learn more about their multiple funds: the Building Housing Fund, the existing housing fund, which is typically value-add properties. Their lending fund, which is one of my favorites, that has strong performance, and there's a couple other funds as well. But more than that, there's an event coming up in November 8th to the 11th, and it's in Ponte Vedra Beach in Florida, and it's the Family Wealth Legacy event, and it's an opportunity to see and touch, feel, get a chance to meet with other clients, other investors of DLP Capital. I'm happy to be speaking there as well, which is really exciting and an honor for me. But you want to check that out by going to dlpcapital.com, and you can look at their events tab. And also, if you're listening to this and you connect with myself, we do have kind of a special discount on some of the tickets. So make sure to connect with me if you're watching this by just going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Larry, that being said, are you ready to dive into some of the lightning round as it pertains to the values for DLP Capital?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to take this first one here, and within 30 seconds or less, can you talk to us what it means to have the 20-mile march with DLP Capital?
Yes, so 20-mile march just means when things are tough or when things are good, you consistently hit targets day in, day out, month in, month out. So if the weather's bad, you're still going to march 20 miles. If the weather's great, you could go 40 miles, but you're still going to go 20 miles. So it's not slow and steady wins the race by any means, but it's consistent, steady, massive action day in, day out, regardless of market conditions, that help you get there. And that's what's helped us grow so much over time, but consistently and in a safer way.
Excellent. Next one, innovative, solution focused.
Yeah, so innovation is a word that's thrown around a lot and not necessarily always in real estate. Innovation to us means, how do we put the investor first? How do we do the best for our investors? So for instance, it's pretty innovative that we pay a preferred return before we get even a management fee. You're getting a certain return before DLP gets anything. If you talk about really putting the investor first, there's not a lot of folks out there that are doing that. And especially in the public markets, things are going great, things are going bad, they're getting paid. But we don't get paid until the investor is paid first. That's just one example. And finding new ways all the time to learn, find out what our blind spots are, move forward with them, and then ultimately make for a better investor experience.
Fantastic. Next one is execution and excellence.
Yeah, I mean, all the great goals, and we talk about hope is not a strategy, right? All the goals in the world don't mean anything if you don't execute. You have to do the job well. We can talk about pro formas, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you're doing underwriting and you're saying, hey, everything's going to be fantastic for the next 10 years, is it realistic? You be realistic in the way that you actually set your goals, and you set those God-sized goals, and they might scare you a little bit, But once you actually focus on actually executing them and you do it, you find that things are a lot easier to do than they seem.
Absolutely. The next one, which is one of my favorite ones, and by the way, for the listeners who are listening to this, I have these at my house, and what's cool is I put them right in my mirror, and every morning I turn them to each one. And so this is the one that I have. One of my favorite ones is Leadership Grit. Leadership Grit.
Yep. And so that's a bit of an amalgamation of two. And since we made those blocks, we've actually updated, and this is to your point, Brett, we've updated the leadership core value to servant leadership. And again, it's not for us, it's not for our own glory, it's so that we can serve others. So that was a big distinction that we wanted to make. So we updated it. So that servant leadership is always taking that next step in order to help someone else and not just do it for ourselves. Grit, obviously, in most cases, comes from the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. Phenomenal book. It's what separates the most successful people in the world from everyone else. It's not IQ. It's not test scores. It's not what school you go to or whatever. It's when times get tough, do you have passion and perseverance towards long-term goals? So that's great.
Fantastic. The next one is humble confidence. Humble confidence.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of confidence out there, right? And in most cases, when you find that it's not humble, you know it, right? You're talking to somebody who is really just kind of boastful or, being kind of buffing themselves up, right? Humble confidence is knowing that you can do the job, knowing that you can execute with excellence, but also having the humility to know that you don't know everything, that there's always something else to learn, having that growth mindset, and then being able to take that feedback, taking that, the learning that you're taking every single day to ultimately improve what you're doing.
Fantastic. And we'll finish with these last two. Enthusiastically delivering wow.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is something where you say, okay, well, wow is all over the place, especially over the last 10 years or so. But what we really want to do is surprise and delight our investors, our clients, by going above and beyond. And when you, again, put that into focus and you say, well, I'm not just going to go through the motions. I'm going to always ask, what else can I be doing? What more can I be doing to do a better this or do a better that or make a better experience? And so really it just comes down to going above and beyond so that people just say, wow, I can't believe you guys did that.
Fantastic. And to wrap it up, driven for greatness.
Driven for greatness. So this is more than just a book club, which we have a group here at DLP that meets every 2 weeks. We read a different book, typically 1 or 2 a month, and a different team member leads a conversation on what we've learned. So that's the book club part of it. That's our group, and that's driven for greatness. But the core value is a constant search for knowledge, a constant thirst for knowledge. Again, it's that growth mindset. If we said, hey, I'm good, I've learned everything I need to learn. You hear a lot of people, for instance, that say, hey, I've been in this job for 30 years. That doesn't mean that they've been growing for 30 years. That means that they've lived the same year 30 times. So when you say, okay, well, you have a driven for greatness mindset, I'm going to learn so that this year I'm doing better than I did last year. I'm growing more than I did last year. And by the time that same 30-year time period comes up, you're going to accomplish substantially and exponentially more than if you have that fixed mindset or maybe a victim mindset. So that's what we take advantage of here, is always learning, always taking that next step.
Larry, that was a lightning round with DLP core values. I want to say you did a phenomenal job, by the way. If you have not read the book, Building an Elite Organization, this book is absolutely amazing. It's a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller, and it's written by Don Winner. And this is the book that I use to help to build our organization, trying to be as elite as DLP Capital. And it's like a playbook. It's not just an inspiration book, although it has inspiration. It's a play-by-play book of how Don and amazing leaders like Larry have built DLP Capital. You want to pick that up, called Building an Elite Organization. They also have coaching around this, and they also have ways to dive in. So check that out. Larry, that being said, if people want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, reach out to info@dlpcapital.com. Go to our website, give us a call, and we would love to talk with you.
Amazing. I want to thank all of our listeners for listening to the episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. We're also streaming Expert CRE Secrets podcast. We believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. And that's why working with amazing groups like DLP Capital can help you unlock your dreams, get passive income, and make an impact with your wealth. And we want to encourage you, if you're selling anything that's highly appreciated, to check out capitalgainstaxsolution.com. Check out our new book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, where we are helping people exit every single day, defer the tax, and invest into groups like DLP Capital to make an impact and to grow your wealth.